Hello, welcome back.
Hello.
Jacob's here. I'm here, Matt. We're back for episode 2 of currently untitled podcast, whatever it is, where we get together and chat about things that we tend to talk about over WhatsApp because we both run businesses. Jacob here is a dad. I'm soon to be a dad, and we both live in Cyprus. And we're both kind of in the same space business wise, similar kind of area in life. And yeah, if we don't know, if you're watching, listening, you don't know who I am, my name is Matt Barker. I teach people how to write on LinkedIn, and this is Jacob Peggs. What do you do, Jacob?
I help people sort of architect low ticket funnels and systems.
That sounds a lot more sophisticated than what I do. Cool. You can find us both on LinkedIn. Again, my name's Matt Barker. Your handle on LinkedIn is
Yeah.
Jacob Peggs, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're also on Instagram,
Yeah.
Twitter, MySpace, probably.
MySpace. That's the one you should sign up to. Yeah, YouTube, where this is going to be.
YouTube, yeah. I've just started posting on Substack again.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Are you finding it?
Yeah, it's okay. I started it early last year, and I got to like 1,200 subscribers, and I was doing like a long form article, like I think at the time I was even doing it like once a day or like
Oh,
once every other day, because I was writing a daily email at the time, so I was just throwing the same email over
yeah.
there just to build up an audience on Substack. And I was just copy and pasting posts from LinkedIn over to the notes
Yeah, to
thing
get a
on
bit of
Substack.
traction.
Yeah. And I was sending traffic from LinkedIn to get people to Substack and read the longer form stuff. And slowly it got up to 1.2k, and I think I stopped posting in like March 25, and like every day I was still getting subs to the
Oh, really?
articles and stuff. Yeah, I didn't even do it, like I think I stopped it at like 800, so almost like doubled the.
It's not bad. It says something about like maybe SEO or whatever
Yeah,
is in that world.
yeah, I don't know.
It's
But
cool.
yeah, long story short, I'm on LinkedIn, a bit on Substack, and I do have an Instagram, which I barely use. Jacob is a lot more active on Instagram, LinkedIn, so go and follow us both on there. Today, so our thing with these podcasts so far, well, definitely the last one, is that we turn up completely unprepared and we have no idea what we're going to talk
Yeah.
about. Well, at least that's what we've done on the first one. On this one, we decided to pick a topic to discuss. Um, we decided to pick the topic of discipline. And the reason for that is because um, Jacob and we both write on LinkedIn every single day. We have done for about 4 years now.
Yeah.
You pretty
4
much
years.
started at a similar time as I did. We both run businesses, which we are both very much involved in and do work
All day.
all day. We do the work. We don't just
Don't
outsource
delegate. Yeah.
everything. Um, Jacob, you have a wife, a kid. You also have dogs.
Cats.
Yeah, cats. You have a zoo at home.
Yeah.
And you also recently ran a marathon. So I thought that it would be quite a relevant topic, but mainly because you just recently ran the marathon, and that requires a lot of discipline to train for.
Hmm.
So I thought that'd be an interesting topic to talk about, and maybe we can start off like how do you manage to stay disciplined, like training for a marathon, running your business, looking after your baby, maintaining a healthy relationship with your wife, and all these sorts of things. And what are like the problems that you kind of see with like other people? I guess that would probably be a good
Yeah.
place for us to start.
It's a really good way of putting it. And I love that we're continuing this. Almost feels like a continuation of the previous one where we've discussed this briefly on WhatsApp, but we get to
Yes.
expand in real time.
Mm.
And I don't know what's about to come, but what I feel like, and you hit the spot there, sometimes it comes intuitively, or maybe there's like the software engineer in me from the agency days or whatever it is, where discipline to me to some extent is like pattern recognition,
Mm.
where knowing I've got a marathon, or like whatever the commitment is, posting every day, running a marathon, showing up for clients, over time, whether intentionally or not, there's some people that are just planners. And I have a feeling maybe you plan a little bit ahead when it comes to things,
Not too far ahead.
not too far.
I'm
Because
terrible at planning long term, but short
okay,
term, like if I'm looking a
yeah,
week ahead, like I put something in my calendar, it's going to happen, and then I can still
yeah,
shift it around. But it's, yeah.
yeah. Because to me, it was the opposite. It was like a bit of chaos everywhere, more of
Mm,
like an artist just like throwing paint at a wall and seeing. And then over time, I sort of started doing what you just said. Like I can see a week ahead, maybe a month ahead, and then past that, it's sort of like I'll figure it out mentality. But discipline to me is like a mix of having a commitment in the back of your head with a reason, like a big why. Why are we posting? Why am I running a marathon? Why am I,
mm,
serving clients? What's the thing behind it that doesn't come with money really? It's just like a motivator. The way I can articulate it with the marathon is like I just wanted to push my body to a limit to just experience something different.
mm.
Partially because I was told, genetically I've got high blood pressure, or
Oh,
my,
really?
yeah, like my
Ah,
dad's side of the family, everyone's on the pill.
okay.
So they told me that 3 years ago, and I've been on the pill, but it was like, you won't be able to exercise. And I just took that at heart. I'm like, there's no way. I love my running. I've done it for so many years. So that was my why in that realm. And then the other side of it is more logical and more, I guess, like you've committed to this thing. Do you have what it takes to have slow incremental chips at the thing? Because you hear all these results, you hear all these massive achievements that people have. But to me, it was like it's always an accumulation of small bits. I could always see it in code or when I used to write music.
Mm.
Like you don't just write a song or build a website or an app. You go very slowly in this foundation layers and you keep stacking. And you always also said the same with writing, for example. I've seen people under your post go, oh my God, he's written however many posts or has this many followers. And I'm like, what he's saying is actually what they should listen to, which is I've been here for 4 years every
Mm.
single day, which I think we share the same thing where with the running, when somebody said 42K in kilometers, it's like from Nicosia to Larnaca for anybody listening. It's like quite a distance.
Yeah.
I just initially said that's impossible. I'm never, going to do it. And it's not a thing. And then I said, hold on. You're going to go from 1K to 3K to 5K to 10K to so on. And you're just going to give yourself a window of time and kind of hope that you're going to get there.
Mm.
But the logical side, I think, I don't know where it comes from. It's more like, and maybe you get it too, because you've committed and the purpose is far beyond like a monetary thing. When you don't do it, you get like an ick or an itch or like I got sick with COVID or whatever it was in October and I had to miss a week of running and it was just like, oh, I can't wait
Painful.
to get
Yeah.
back. Like, and it's the same, like, I think we both have never missed a post. If I was to miss it, I would feel the same like itch for getting back, right?
Yeah. If I'm not like, if for whatever reason I'm behind with like my content or something and I'm on the day I haven't got one ready, I'm like
Yeah.
jittery, It's just so pathetic, but also like it matters, It's like a thing of like, I don't know, one of the things I've always been able to do is like do something that's very boring just over and over again.
Mhm.
Like in my career before, I was a marketer before for like 10 years, and a lot of what I was good at in marketing was like analyzing the data and like spreadsheets and stuff like this. And I would just spend all day in spreadsheets. Like to anyone else, that's incredibly boring, but for me, that's like all right. Um, and that feels like a bit of discipline to me, like being able to do something that's really boring over and over again.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I think and I think when I look at like, I've been able to post on LinkedIn for that long consistently. I think for me, the motivation it's a motivation thing, and where it came from was the fact that I just started being a freelancer, and that writing on there was like the main thing for me that made me feel like I was doing something to grow my business. Because at
Mm.
the thought of like going into a shop and like
Oh,
handing out like
yeah.
business cards or like going to networking events, that was just like
The
painful for
sales
me.
side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like like it almost comes from a place of like being a bit lazy in a way, and finding this one thing that kind of gives you that kind of feeling of like a purpose, I guess. And
So
like
is that
you're
like for you, what I'm hearing is you found something you're actually aligned with to get the discipline and the motivation to actually go
yeah,
and do it,
I
right?
think so. I think so. But then I also run. I don't necessarily. I'm probably not as rigid with it as you are. Um, but last year I pretty much ran like 2 or 3 times every single week. Did like 100 runs. But the thing that I was looking at was just doing the run. It wasn't
Yeah, not the
like,
number,
yeah, it
right?
wasn't like, am I going to do 10K? Am I going to do it in a certain time? I was like, if I just do the run, then that's my job done. So I guess I see it as like we talked about this on our last one, like creating these kind of rules for yourself.
Yeah.
And like I guess these kind of rules that I've created for myself is like you post every day, you send an email 5 times a week, you run 3 times, like you create these kind of rules.
Non-negotiables
Yeah.
almost.
And I
Yeah.
don't have them like written down or anything. It's not like
Yeah.
on my wall or anything like that, and I'm not ticking it off, but it's just like subconscious. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that's what you mentioned there. For me, discipline, it just came to me that when you like what you're doing, it's easier to wake up and actually do it. And
100%.
same
Yeah.
thing with the runs. Like if I wasn't running a marathon or whatever, I would just do it for the sake of running and not count how many kilometers or whatever, like just grab the dog and go or whatever. But when I've had to discipline myself to do something I didn't want to do, that's where actually like intrinsically you gotta borderline like force yourself or actually do it. Like
Mm,
since we are talking about social media and the work that we do, like when I started, um, or even pre LinkedIn when we were doing the agency, it was like I hate doing outbound,
yeah.
and I was a lot more introverted, like didn't want to be online at all, had zero social media presence, but I had 12 people to feed. So that motivation was like, I got to do cold email or I got to pick up the phone. And I used to hate myself for doing it. But like the feeling of knowing this guy and his 2 kids are getting paid because of me was what kept me going.
Mm,
And then as soon as, all of that sort of folded and whatever, like I never wanted to send a single outbound message ever again because the motivation from the discipline sort of unhinged itself.
yeah. So yeah, so that feels like probably what it is, isn't it? It's a motivation thing. Like if you think about like, a big, when people are working in their jobs, they do a 9 to 5, whatever. They always have like, people always think like, I just want to do my own thing. I want to make money. I don't want to work for anyone. And they think about starting a side hustle. The majority of people have probably thought about that at some
Hmm.
point. But going to your job 9 to 5 and then doing that, like, there's a guy, Pat Walls, have you heard of him? The Starter Story
Mm,
guy.
no.
So he was like the side hustle guy. He worked in a job. I can't remember what job he did, but he started Starter Story as a side hustle. Every morning he would go to the Starbucks around the corner from his house. He'd sit there for 1 hour, whatever it was he was
Mm,
doing. He'd just sit there for 1 hour, do something, and then leave, go to his job. And then afterwards he'd go back to the same table, same place, do
mm.
another hour, and then leave. What he did in those hours, it doesn't matter, but he just made sure that he did that thing. And now Starter Story does like 10 million a year or something, and he's
Yeah.
been running it for like 10 years. Um, so it's like if when I think about when I was working, and I always wanted to do my own thing, but I didn't have the discipline to start a side hustle and maintain a
Yeah.
side hustle, because I would always find like, oh, I'll just go for a beer with my friend, or like I just want to go and watch TV, or like, oh, it's too late now, I'm
Comfort.
too tired. And yeah, I'd always look for like the comfortable things to do instead.
Hmm.
So and I think because you, for me anyway, and I think probably for a lot of people as well, if there's nothing on the line, if there's no real, if you're just comfortable, like, where's that discipline going to come from? The motivation that we're just
which is what
talking
where
about.
most people are in.
Yeah.
Like I remember when early in your LinkedIn journey, you were living wherever you were, and there was this picture of you in a living room that was small, and you had like your laptop, like
Yes,
the
that's
AC.
right.
Like
Yeah.
I remember that, and you were going like, I've done this thing for like 6 months or 8 months or whatever it was. You were a bit ahead, and I remember reading something along the lines of like, you just got to keep doing it even when it's shit.
Mm.
And that, I mean, obviously people go through hardships and whatever, and now looking back that, oh, he's got it easy, he's got an audience, he's got this and that. But I remember distinctly, like when I stumbled on your profile, it was like, what does it feel like to actually get through those weeds? And that's probably where a lot of people give up.
Mm.
And I remember when I started, it was like, picking the people in your circle and whatnot. And every single time there was comparison. I'm like, my post is getting 2 likes. This guy's getting 200. And I always told myself, and not just on LinkedIn, it was business. It was comparing to this person's MRR or like, this guy owns a real estate company and makes billions, and I'm comparing it that little creator,
Yeah.
or agency or whatever it was at the time. And I used to always say, they're better than me, when
Mm-hmm.
all in all, you were just ahead, not better, ahead in time. And then I used to tell myself before bed, like, if you can discipline yourself to chip away, he's saying 400 posts, I'm at post 13. When I get to 400, can I live through that and
Yeah.
discipline myself to chip in and see what happens there? And I switched the word he's better than me to he's ahead of me. And then the discipline factor changed. It was like a little switch in my head. I think in one of the questions that we were asked, because we cross-posted in our communities,
Did, yeah.
there was one that said, how do you actually cope when days aren't as good as they're supposed to be? Like, how do you keep the discipline going? So maybe we can have a little go at that one.
Yeah, that's a good one. That is a good one. Because for me, certainly, not every day is good, and that's normal.
Yeah.
And I always say this about, like, with writing, and what I always try and teach my clients and advise the clients that I work with, like, I'm not going to teach you just one way to write. I'm going to teach you like 50, so that when you wake up on a Monday and you feel like buzzing to write, you have a way that you can write. But then you wake up on a Monday and you're like, God, can't be bothered to do this. I just need to get it done. Then you have all these other ways that you can refer to write that might fit how you're feeling on that day. So I guess, like, that's kind of a thing of, like, especially for writing, it's like understanding all the different ways in which you can do something that don't necessarily need to be like the right way to do it. It just needs to be a way to do it. And when that certainly with writing is a way that I stay disciplined and kind of manage to stay on track with that. But I think, like, business wise, if I'm having a terrible day, like, there's days where I'll wake up and I'm like, I don't know how to sign a client, but I've signed like 200 clients over the last like 4 years or something. And I'll just be like, I don't know how to do this. And it'll just be a complete terrible day. And I think the thing I'll try and do is I'll try and take the easiest way out possible for that day, to just try and just remove myself from the day, but still show up in like the tiniest little bit.
Yeah, 1%.
So if I can't give it 100%, if I can't give it 50, if I can only give it like 3%, I'll just do the tiniest little thing. Like, even if it's like sending an email to someone, or like write like the shittiest post ever, like, I'll just try and do one thing that just gets me.
Yeah, like moves the needle.
Yeah, and then I'll just remove myself from the day. because if you're just not in that frame of mind, then it's just not worth like burying yourself in that further.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point because a lot of people will beat themselves up for that one day.
Mm.
But it's like, can you even remember what that day was 4 years later?
Yeah, that's part of it. It's like nothing is ever gonna just like, and again, this comes back to like something I hear a lot with my clients I work with. Like, they want to put one post out, it does like, I don't know, 1,000 impressions. They want the next post to do 2,000, next one
Yes.
3, up, but just and
And it's more like,
continuously up. But nothing is ever like that.
yeah, and I think like what you said was cool because with that 3%, I've also watched you talk about this concept of like, if we are looking at content, it doesn't have to be new. It could be repurposed.
Mm.
You can use analytics, you can use whatever. Like I can draw, so it's, giving it a little variety when I play music. I don't have to start from an empty canvas. And I think in the world we're in, we're so prone to like results and KPIs and targets and things where the artist will just get a notebook and sketch. Like my wife will doodle all day long and leave it unfinished, or in the back of the class in high school. Like you're bored, you're just going to doodle, and that will forever live as a sketch.
Mm.
But our little universe has trained us to be so results driven that you forget to sketch, you forget to play with it. Or another thing I learned from you was just set a timer and write anything. Like
Mm.
I am sitting here writing on my laptop, enter, and that notion is that 3% for me. And in coding or playing an instrument, I always, again, to the patterns, whenever I coded something that made sense, I would store it and label it as this bit,
Mm.
So the next time I had this bit of a website to code, maybe I was having a shit day, but I would grab that, and all of a sudden the canvas isn't empty anymore.
Yeah.
And once you see that, you're like, oh, or you have your arsenal of like creators or inspiration or whatever. I always, like, my clients laugh when I show them my workflow with content creation. It's a Google Keep that looks like some dude on ADHD who's drunk at the same time, like just throwing stuff. And I'm like,
Yeah.
my personality type is of that type. Like I need to see that. And all of a sudden I have ideas and I can assemble.
Mm.
Someone else is like, no, I need to see templates with brackets and like full on like mechanical stuff. And I'll pick that up. But I think the discipline to also systemize for those bad days and the good days gets you to do what you mentioned with like, if I'm feeling really good, empty canvas day.
Yeah.
Or if I'm feeling really crap, pull out 3 frameworks or just copy paste something and it will still push, right?
And that's why like just boiling things down to just actions as opposed to like quality of the actions is probably like the better thing really ultimately, because if you're just obsessing over like the quality of of the actions that you're taking,
Mm-hmm.
obviously you want to put out good stuff and you want to, whether it's content, like the stuff you do with your clients and these sorts of things. But if you just boil it down to I need to just do this action today, then even if you just do the minimum of that action, then you're going to have, it's going to give you something. It's going to move you forward in some way, shape, or
Mm-hmm.
form.
Yeah, and I think to sort of round this question up, you mentioned the word boring, and discipline is boring, and no one said it's going to be fun. Like to cross that marathon line at the end took a lot of boring days of just doing the same thing. Acknowledging that it is boring is one thing, and another thing I found is finding other extracurricular activities to make that boring thing okay.
Yeah, because like you said earlier, like you play your guitar sometimes on with your content and
Yeah,
like whatever, and you draw and things like that. I guess that just makes it a bit more
yeah, or
enjoyable and fun.
maybe you get an idea playing paddle, or
Yeah.
having a beer with a friend, socializing, or whatever it is, and then the next day isn't as boring as it is, or the inspiration comes.
Mm.
I'm gonna see if they had something related to this that we can dive into. So,
Yeah.
a lot of people were saying when you run an online business, when it comes to discipline, how do you structure a couple of hours a day to work on your LinkedIn growth, your this part of your business? Like, is there a specific way that you
Mm.
disciplined yourself over time to do that?
Yeah, I guess if I look at I think a lot of it is trial and error, and again, this is stuff that I tell my clients with writing on LinkedIn as well. Like, I hate how much I bring things back to writing on LinkedIn.
It's
It's
what
just
it
like
is.
writing on LinkedIn. It's just like, duh. But like a lot of it for me and my experience, my personal experience is just trial and error. Like it's the same with like working with clients, what things that are going to make me more money in my business, posts on LinkedIn at work and
Hmm.
whatever. It's like um, I'll try doing something in a certain way. If it's just not working, then I'll try find another way. So an
Hmm.
example of that is like when I first started writing on LinkedIn, I would write the post on the day every morning, and I really
Mm.
remember like waking up. There was around the time when I was doing it. We were staying in one of our friends' house, looking after their cat while they're on holiday, and like that period was around the time when I kind of started posting on LinkedIn. And I would wake up, get out of bed, I'd open my phone and just open LinkedIn like blank app, and I'd just be like, "What do I write?" And that would be so stressful,
Yeah,
and
I
it would
can
take so
imagine.
long. It would take like an hour plus to write a post because at the time I was also a beginner, so I had no idea like what I was really writing about.
Hmm.
Would do that, and it would just get to a point where again, there's like this can't be the best way for me. And then I would kind of read stuff. I'd look for ideas on what other ways people do this, and stumbled across like batch writing content. Like,
Oh,
oh, you
and
can
then
write it all in one go, just on one day, and then you schedule it all out for the rest of the week, and then you don't have to think about it the rest of the. And I was like, okay, I'll try that. And that for me like worked amazingly. But then obviously, uh, as you start doing that, I'm like, okay, this is great. I can just sit and spend 2 hours doing this and get it all out on schedule. But then like the next problem is like, how do I systemize this and make it a bit
yeah,
more repeatable and blah blah blah. So then you start going down that kind of approach. But so for me, it's just been a lot of trial and error, like the way I work with my clients now, and that wasn't necessarily how I used to work with them. I started out as a ghostwriter. I used to get on a call every single week with them and interview them for an hour
mm,
and a half, ask them questions. Now I have a call every 2 weeks with them. I audit a post for them every like Wednesday, Thursday. So I have like days. So like Monday is like a content day. I'll block
hmm,
out a time in my calendar for that specific thing. And then like later on in the afternoon, I'll block out an hour for like checking in on one-to-one clients, copy builders, my community.
hmm.
And then the Tuesday is, that's got another to like Tuesday,
For a
Wednesday,
different.
Thursday is like my kind of client work block. So like
Mhm.
anything I can do in those days, I'll create the time in my calendar and I'll follow that like as closely as I
Yeah,
can.
that's a really good way because it seems like you're separating. It's like you've got, because you're solo, so am
Yeah.
I. Um, Different departments of the business are handled at different intervals of the day or on separate days,
And
right?
it's not just business stuff. Like
Yeah,
my calendar has like, now it's like pediatrician,
yeah.
uh, baby scan, like
Gym or.
midwife, gym. Yeah, like started going to the gym like with
Mhm.
PT, like I was telling you before, and that's like now taking up time.
Yeah.
And I look back at this week and I'm like, my God, like
Yeah,
it's
it's
when I actually look at the things I've done, like not just business, but like dinner, cleaning up,
yeah,
things like that. It's like just top
yeah.
to bottom.
I think that's funny because when we met, my calendar was like full on sales calls
Yeah.
and whatever. But since our WhatsApps and everyone's evolved over the years, I can't live without my calendar. Like
Me
everything is
neither.
there, life and business, and they've
Mm.
got different colors. But one of the best things I had to do when Nefeli, my daughter, was born, was literally go, I wanna have dad time. So there is a dad time slot that's big every Wednesday and every Friday to be dad.
Mm.
And then we plan around that, like my wife can go to work, she can do whatever because I'm gonna be there with the baby. But it almost forced me to go, I've got to discipline myself to tell my clients I don't take client calls on Wednesdays and Fridays. And I
Yeah.
lost one client who was like, no, I need to. I'm like, you know, I'm in a position now where I can say no. And then Monday, Tuesday, Thursday is where I serve clients. And then I pick a day where I'm like, this is content, this is app, I don't know, apps and ops and finance and admin and scheduling and whatever. But to that person who asked about the 2 hour block, you start to see time for what it is, and you get so much leverage out of that, knowing if it's content in that 2 hours, I've got to write it and schedule it and do the emails. You end up doing a lot more repurposing and looking at data and playing a game. So that way you maximize the output. So you can then go be dad or go to the gym or play paddle or music or whatnot. And I think for me, it was going set constraints and don't cross boundaries. Before, it was always like me crossing every single boundary under
Yeah.
the sun.
Yeah.
And if I know these are the constraints, I've got to have dinner at 9. There's mama and papa time. It's on the
Yeah.
calendar. I don't care what happens. Baby bath time is 7 p.m. That's a constraint. Sorry, I can't take a call past that. And you just fiddle around that.
Yeah. I think especially for you now, you've got a baby and you have a partner and stuff. A lot of the content that you see online, like, I'm not going to name names, but like Alex Hormozy is like a good, and we were talking about him before because he just did that podcast with Tony Robbins. But he doesn't have kids, and all the stuff he talks about is like, work your ass off, just wake up, work. Like, unless you have like if you've got a baby or a child, like, that human needs to live and it needs like a routine. You're like responsible for that human. That's the motivation, like, that we were talking about earlier, that you need to then like discipline yourself and create those things,
Yeah, it's funny because then you stick the extracurricular activities. We also got to go out and socialize and do all of that. It becomes like, we call it fam ops at home.
Nice.
Because, like, I don't know about you, but you get me in a supermarket, I can't shop to save my life if my wife's not there. So I've always got to schedule like an extra half
Good
hour.
insight into your life.
Yeah. But even those bits are scheduled. We're going to order the food, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, laundry, and it becomes this giant movable chessboard. And especially like with the marathon as well, I just said, I'm committing. I'm going to wake up at 4 a.m. for the next 18 weeks, and that's okay. And then, it doesn't bug the rest of the days. But I think hopefully that was helpful to people. I think maybe we can take on, so one more or...
Yeah, I think just to add to that, like, an example of the kind of trial and error thing as well, like, and what you're talking about, like fitting things in and shuffling things around in your calendar and trying to stay disciplined with that. Like, 2 weeks ago, I signed up for a PT, personal trainer. We're doing one-to-one gym sessions. We're going to do it 3 times a week. We started out last week, so we're going to go like 3 times and it's going to be in the morning each time. This week we did the same, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It was an hour session, but it doesn't just take an hour.
Oh, yeah.
It takes like 3 hours because I'm driving there, driving back, picking up some sort of food from like the supermarket on the way back, cooking the food, cleaning, then like showering, and then like before you know it, it's like 3 hours gone.
Yeah.
It's like, that's not going to work. So I now have to change that, but I still have to, I want to stay disciplined with going to the gym. So like, I'm just going to shuffle it around, and maybe I'll just do it in the evening and put it in the evening. And so it's the trial and error, trying something. If it doesn't work, then make it.
Yeah, and admitting to that temporary defeat.
Yeah.
Or like, this wasn't as good as it should have been. We got to improve together. That's really fun. And there was, like, to sort of interject to that, one of the questions that piqued my interest was, we are more creative individuals, I think, in the form of writing and, bringing in life into business. Even when we do talk, we're not like always going clients this, clients that, whatever. Especially in the email world where we just get to explore bits. One person was asking, like, how do you allow yourself to flow creatively when you've got discipline blocks? And for me, it was very hard to channel that, like the activation button of creativity. Because
Mm.
when you don't have kids, like I remember sitting in a room for 8 hours playing guitar to write this much of a song.
Yeah.
You don't have that anymore.
Mm.
But to what you said, like knowing the gym takes this much prep before it and being conscious that it's a 4 hour block, it's not a 1 hour block.
Mm.
I don't know about you, but I found ways to make sure the environment's ready. Like it's silly, but writing on my phone with the cracked screen on Google Keep gets me in that flow
It's like
state
comfortable for you, yeah.
much faster than trying to be on this iPad with nothing and no
Mm.
notifications. So over time, it's like, I know I'm going to channel flow when I sit on that couch with this phone at this sort of time,
Mm.
and I'll block it and it will ring, and I'm like, whoop, like creative juice mode. And I don't care what happens if there's interruptions, I'll still allow for that or pencil it in. Is that sort of how you go about it? Is it very
Yeah.
different?
So I tend to not think of myself as creative at all. Like the way I go about writing is like I see it as like things need to be said in a certain order. So I just see it as like I'm saying this thing in this order, and I'm starting off with that thing, then this thing, then this thing. That's the post done.
Mm.
And the way I'm writing it, again, I don't see it as like I'm being creative. I'm like I'm not I don't see it as like a creative thing. I see it as more of just like I'm telling a story or just
Yeah,
recalling what happened. Do you know what I mean? So it's like it
yeah.
doesn't, to someone else it might feel like, whoa, like
Oh,
that's an
you're
amazing story. Like has he made a story out of like something so like trivial? But like all I'm doing is just like there was a cup on the table, then I moved it to the right, and you
you're
know,
reciting the lived
yeah.
experience. Yeah.
With the writing specifically, I don't know why I'm moving that back. Actually do. So with the writing specifically, I don't really see it as like a creative thing. I think because like I said to you before, like I've always done like boring things. I feels like I can just do boring things over and over again. So the writing almost feels like a boring thing that I do over and over again.
Mhm.
But like creative writing, I would put in like a different bracket of like, you know, like at school, you'd make up like alternative
Yeah.
beginnings for like Frankenstein or something like that.
Yeah.
I always remember that was one thing we did at school. That I would kind of count as creative writing because there's no real like purpose for it.
Yeah.
It's just you're thinking, you're just your interpretation of something. Um,
Yeah. I think,
so manufacturing the creativity is a thing, but I think just giving myself these like very simple prompts to just
yeah,
like
like get it
write,
started. Yeah.
yeah, where to start with the writing, and then it's the frameworks and the structures that I follow that.
Yeah, I think it's also sort of important. I love that example with the creative writing, because you can end up beating yourself up too much when you're like over
Yeah.
disciplining and over planning and like, oh, this didn't work by the millisecond, or,
Uh-huh.
I was an hour late, and then you end up like guilt tripping yourself. One thing I enjoy is like actually writing for the sake of writing something fun, even if it's lyrics for a song idea, or whatever it is, or just something that I've thought of. Like we've recently started playing Dungeons and Dragons with a group of friends,
Nice.
and like just experiencing that out of context thing is like, when it comes to coming back to writing, I'm like, my brain's experienced something entirely new. I can then come back and use the framework or whatever, but have a different avenue so it flows better. I don't know.
Mm.
Um, I've seen you do that as well with like email recently a little bit, like just explore other topics and challenge yourself.
Yeah, with email, that feels like a place where I can be a bit more like, um, a bit weirder and just kind of pluck like, do a bit of research on like ChatGPT about like random stories or
Yeah.
stuff like that, and just kind of turn it back to LinkedIn or
Hmm.
the topic of writing at the end of it. Um, and that's quite fun. But again, even that doesn't feel particularly creative because it's like
Hmm.
I'm going to ChatGPT or I'm like thinking of like a story that I heard once and then just telling that thing
Hmm.
and then just flipping it to the topic that I really want to talk about to the reader. So I don't know. I don't see it as personally, I don't feel creative when I'm doing
in the
it.
moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I
Um,
mean, so many people find it hard. Like you've probably been asked this a lot as well. Like, how can you come up with that? And I think for people listening, what you said is important. Like, you move the cup, and then you're going to write about and literally say, "I moved the cup yesterday," and whatever. Sometimes when you're looking to either just do something, that's all it might take. Like,
mm,
I've had some clients recently, like, I'm stuck. I'm like, what did you do yesterday? Point to your calendar.
yeah.
Tell me about that meeting.
Yeah.
Here's like the prompt is, what did you do? Give me one line. And then I would just ask a follow up. And within 5 minutes, you've got a post. And they're like, but it's not long enough. I'm like, who says who?
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
You've now disciplined yourself to be able to look at that. And then by the end of the fifth, they're like, can we write another one? It's like, yes, we can. What did you do? Whatever day, like Wednesday. And it's the same exercise.
Yeah.
And they realize it doesn't have to be this like crazy thing.
Yeah. And I think that's also like the curse of like, you know, a lot of the people that you work with, and most of the people that I work with tend to be like kind of solo operators. They're running a business by themselves, or they're doing writing on LinkedIn by themselves, or whatever. There's no real kind of team involved, so they're just they find themselves just writing about their day just by themselves, and they're like, does anybody care? Does anybody think this is good? And the only validation you get is just posting it on LinkedIn, and that's like the validation you get. But like if you're within a company, for example, and like, you know, the marketing manager got like the team to all be posting on their LinkedIn, and like they could all as a team kind of be like working together to be like, oh, this could be a good idea for a post. And like if someone writes it, they all submit it and they look at each other's posts and like, yeah, that's really good. And like you get that validation from other people that you're working around. But like when you're just doing it yourself, it because it's your own thing, like no one thinks what they do is interesting generally.
Yeah, and
That's like that's a big problem, you know, that people have.
Yeah, and we may have said this in the last episode, but it was like the reason why we have this WhatsApp interaction is to have someone else in your corner.
Yes.
To realize, like, I mean, I remember whenever it was November, I ran that cohort, like just sending you my offer and getting another friend to go, dude, why did you do that?
Yeah.
And then, or I feel like this, and you're like, oh, I felt the same.
Yeah.
When I just sort of keeps you going. So I think I also felt the same thing at the marathon. I was like, man, I'm on my own. I'm in this little bubble, and like you've convinced yourself I'm not going to make it. It's the end of the world. And like there was this group of people with signs and like the same colored shirts and just doing it communally. And I could see how much fun they were having. And it just reminds me to, you know, with whatever it is, you can have other people. It doesn't always have to be like competitor this or, you know, family this, that. You can have like people who do exactly the same thing around you. And then it makes the process of showing up a lot funner. Like we run our own communities. Yours is Copy Builders. I do Modern Maker. Just seeing the people in both communities and how they interact makes them show up. They're like, you know, the reason I'm here is because you're here. Or you see someone else on a bad day and like, oh, Matt posted, I'm going to do it as well. And then, you know, sort of chain reaction.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions that we have?
Let's have a look. So,
44 minutes.
Okay.
Perfect.
So we could probably do like one or two more, maybe.
Yeah. Awesome.
Or we can just do one more and then wrap it up.
Yeah. So this is a really interesting question. Do you imagine you'd have the business that you do today without the discipline? Why or why not? And what does this teach us about what it takes to build a business?
I mean, no way. Because when you look at the actions that are required for what I've built anyway, the business that I'm running, primary source of traffic is LinkedIn. If I wasn't posting on LinkedIn, if I didn't have that discipline to post on LinkedIn every day, you know, I probably would have still built some sort of audience. But if I wasn't doing it every day and just sticking to it and just doing it, it wouldn't be what it is now.
Hmm.
So it wouldn't be the business that I have today. It would be a different business. I'd have a smaller audience. I would maybe have taken it in a different direction. It could have been better actually, but you never know. So that's like, it's an action that I need to take.
Yeah.
And I think as well with like the way I work with clients, it's, having the discipline to, actually do that client work. I know that kind of sounds a bit stupid, but like,
You got to show up for it, right?
yeah, there's so many people that I know who are, solopreneurs or, maybe freelancers or whatever then, and, they're not that experienced, but like they wonder why they're not getting their clients very good results, or like they wonder why
The half-assed.
they can't get more clients or things like that. And you speak to them and it's like, all they want to do is just write content on LinkedIn. And I'm like, okay, that was me when I started.
Yeah.
But also like, that's why you're not building a better business, because you're too worried about what you're doing with your content, for example,
Yeah, not
as
the
opposed to the
wider.
clients. Yeah. So like just trying to, so like consistently making sure that there's like always actions for the clients, like there's
Yeah,
time
totally.
for clients. But yeah, I really don't think, I think it's, well, it's, with business in general, and especially, and with link and like growing an audience online, it's like, that people talk about it a lot online of like, what's your time horizon? Like, how long are you going to give yourself
Mm.
to enable this to grow? And I found myself saying this a lot recently, but like, I'm wanting to give myself 10 years to grow whatever I'm growing, not 10 weeks.
Yeah, I think we forget, right? Like
Yeah.
we live in this bubble, everything happens so quickly. I'm always pulled back down to earth with my wife's business because she does like more in the construction,
Mm.
quantity surveying stuff. Things happen so slowly over there. So we are, I mean, there is an element of luck to this game in all games and so on, but I always like remember my father-in-law, for example, said, if you do good work, people refer.
Yeah.
And back then, or they've never had a single social media post ever anywhere, and it just runs for 40 years on word of mouth and brand reputation in a local environment. So looking at service providers or whatnot, it could be Upwork, you get 5-star reviews, and then that spreads. It comes back down to serving your clients really well.
Mm-hmm.
But also, like for me, it was noticing maybe I'm not as good at insert thing, but I'm good at this other thing.
Mm.
Doubling down on what feels aligned and where I could do things. Like my old writing mentor lived off of other people's audiences. So he used to go and find big people, and that was his strategy, and that was okay. But he knew it and he wanted it, and that's how he grew his business. Or knowing for me, like if I only have 2 hours, I'm going to make the best out of it by watching data. This is a game. I'm not just going to engage for 5 hours. I don't have that time anymore. But even when I did, it wouldn't just be making friends. It would be tactical to actually get somewhere and do it. And
Yeah.
also, realizing, what am I failing at in this process? So looking at what you're doing in the business from like an on the business angle, bird's eye view, more frequently will hack into that time.
Yeah. One of the things that bothers me the most these days is people being busy just for the sake of being busy, just to say they're
Yeah.
busy. And like, not to throw shade on England or London, but like, there's a lot of that type of person in London, because they're like, I've got to be at this job, and I've got to like walk quick and go everywhere in a rush, and then I've got to like, I'm meeting this friend on so and so, and you like look at their calendar and it's like packed out for like 6 months, and just to keep themselves busy.
Yeah.
And like, there's a lot of that with like growing your business as well. Like, there's people, again, like solopreneurs and people that I see on LinkedIn and Instagram or whatever, and they're growing whatever business they've got, and they're flying out to like different countries to go and have like just meet a person. Like, what are you meeting them for? Like,
Yeah.
do you really need to go and meet them? Probably not. Like, you're going to these networking events, you're like doing whatever. You're like just packing your calendar full of stuff when all you need to do, try and get a client and then do a good job for the client. That's literally it.
And that can take 2 hours.
Yeah, and
If you do it
and
properly.
find the most efficient way to do that, and then do it.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I think I struggled with a bit at the start when I was growing my business, but then gradually got there
Hmm.
after a few months, not too long, because I'm I'm typically the kind of person who always has to be growing or
Yeah.
progressing in some way. I can't stay static, as you can tell by the LinkedIn. If not, I would have been happy with her. And I think that approach has always, for me, served me well. And I used to get the question a lot, and I still do it. Get the question a lot. It's like, how do you keep growing your business and keep, how do you do all this stuff with, how do you do everything
Yeah.
you do with the time you have? And I'm like, well, I don't really do that much. Like I write posts and I talk to potential clients, do work for the clients that I get. That's kind of it.
That's it.
They're
Yeah.
the most important things. So they're the things that get blocked out in my calendar. If I'm, at the moment I'm creating a website, that's taken months, like because I've been slow
Hmm.
getting things to them, and it's just not been like the priority thing
Yeah.
for me. So like, if it's not making me money or orientating around that, then it just doesn't fit in.
Yeah, I think the thing we share as a really nice point to maybe summarize this entire conversation, I reckon we can go on for hours, and
Yeah.
is we're both quite metrics driven in the sense that like what we do has to have continuity and has to have, you've called it growth. My measurement is how many offers are you going to make?
Mm.
That is something I can look at and go, I've got this many followers, this many email subscribers. If I press one button now, I'm making 6,000 offers every time I make one. Can I count how many and focus on the input rather than the KPI or the money or the follower growth number? Like, and I think you share that as well in my in the way that I saw you grow your business. It was like it's the post, less so the amount of likes, but the act of posting, and then the like is a signal, tells you this thing is good, do it again, and then you would look at that and figure out how to do it. So get more data driven and make offers and look at the numbers to grow faster.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So I think a good rounding point. So how are we going to summarize discipline? Let's see if we can summarize it each, or maybe collaboratively in like a sentence or something.
So from what I've learned today,
Uh-huh.
it is committing to something
Mm-hmm.
and following through in small calculated action.
Yeah. I think for me, I would say you have to have a motivator. You have to be uncomfortable in some sort of situation to motivate you to be disciplined, I think. If you're comfortable, it's not going to work. I think
you've
that's
got to
probably
have
my...
Yeah, that's actually really good. So motivation in it, small actions, and then actually press go and don't worry and don't look at the small bits.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So
Cool.
I think that was a good continuation of WhatsApp.
Yeah.
We'll be here again.
Yeah.
For anybody who's listening, Matt Barker on LinkedIn, Jacob Peggs on LinkedIn, and this will be on YouTube. If you guys hit subscribe or give it a share, would be amazing.
Awesome.
Thank you.